Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're enjoying OwlCrate-A-Con so far. This is our Publishing Insights panel, and we're going to talk to Robin Alvarez, who's a content creator and author, and McKenzie Catron, who is an author and an artist. How's it going?
How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Robin, you're still muted if you want to unmute.
I would do that.
Well, we are going to talk about everything from both of your publishing journeys to publishing trends to whether members are aspiring authors or just weirdly interested in the publishing industry like I am. We're going to get to it all. So, McKenzie, do you want to start out and tell us a little bit about yourself in a little elevator pitch?
I sure can. My name is McKenzie. I am a full-time author and a full-time artist. I wrote A Daughter of the Trolls, which is the beginning of the New Mean and Parable series. I have actually been collaborating with OwlCrate for about 2 years now as a makeup artist for each theme. And fun fact, I have a neurodegenerative condition. So you're going to see me twitching a little bit. I might stutter. You also might see my service dog, but yeah, that's about it.
Your makeup looks are so cool, and everyone should go check them out either right now or after this panel.
Thank you.
I checked them out right before. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I could never, but oh my gosh.
I'll be sure to drop a link in the comments for the viewers to check it out themselves.
Robin, do you want to tell us a little bit more about you?
Hi, guys. I'm Robin Alvarez. I wrote When Oceans Rise. This is my debut year. My favorite social is TikTok because I was a creator on that platform before I had my book deal, though I was writing for like 14 years before that deal. And I really love YA fantasy. That's like the stuff that I love to read and the stuff that I want to write. And I've never actually even thought of really venturing outside of that area until recently when I tried my hand at horror, and I kind of actually really love
it. I love it. Can you tell us a little bit about the horror that you are trying
out? It's a little bit, and I don't know if anyone will know this reference, but it's a little bit Rose Red-esque, which is a Stephen King like mini TV series that I just love. Like, nobody, me and my sister are the only ones in the family who will watch it because it's like 2 discs long. and we're just fascinated by it because these like psychics go into a haunted house and it powers it up and everyone starts dying, and it's amazing. And yeah, so it's got a little bit of those kind of vibes.
Oh my gosh, we have people in the comments who are like, I love Rose Red. I have not seen it, and now I need to.
It's so Stephen King. It's so classically like you're gonna think I have terrible taste if you watch. I love it. I found it in a Walmart for $5 one time, and it was a movie night thing that turned into an all-night thing.
If it's 2 discs, how long is it?
Oh gosh, I want to say that it's because it was like it was actually a mini TV series, not a movie. And we always treated it like a movie. So it was probably like, here's 6 hours, like something very, very long. Like, I actually thought this was a book and it wasn't, but the Rose Red is very much like inspired by the Winchester House. Ooh. So if you know the history of that, that's what he did, but with Rose Red.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
BD Blake says that they had Rose Red on VHS. So that's
I actually have that too. I have the VHS and the DVD.
That's awesome. Well, let's start out with what drew you both to a career in the publishing industry. Like, how has like your passion for books influenced what you've made a career?
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So I kind of got into the publishing world in a very roundabout way. Kind of as you said, Robin, I've always been really into YA fantasy. I've been a huge avid reader my entire life. And I was like, my makeup stuff that I do on Instagram, I've been doing that, I think, for maybe about 12 years now. And so I had kind of found this crazy balance between this creative makeup and books by reaching out to book box companies. And that's when I started, kind of slowly getting those together. And I think at one point I was working with, I want to say OwlCrate, and I got a little bit of encouragement from some of the team there because I was newly disabled. So I became wheelchair bound in 2018. So in 2020, at that point of still avidly reading, I realized that there was a very, what's kind of the word I'm looking for? I guess there was a lack of disability representation, especially in the fantasy genre, particularly, and mostly also with wheelchairs. It's like, how are you going to put a character in that kind of situation? And I'm pretty sure the only character that I ever found in a wheelchair was also within the Throne of Glass series. So there was also another thing that I noticed about that. So I'm not paralyzed. That's not a part of my disease. And there is a big stereotype that if you're in a wheelchair, you're paralyzed. And so I kind of wanted to figure out a way to put that into a book and to represent the chronic illness community with, kind of what I deal with also showing the mental health side of it. And realizing that there was a need for that, I was like, I don't know how someone is going to put all of those three things in a book. And I was like, I guess if you want it, you got to do it yourself. And I just gave it the big old try. I've always loved literature, and English was like one of my strongest subjects. So I quite literally just winged it, I guess. And then started putting out the feelers out there, and I ended up getting an agent, and that agent worked with me for a little bit. Then he got very silent. And then I followed up, and he decided he didn't want to be an agent anymore without telling me.
Oh my gosh.
So then kind of started a whole new thing. And that led me into the independent publishing world as compared to traditional. So it was a weird circle.
So
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't have like the same kind of story, but I feel like there are threads that are feeling very similar in this way. I am mixed race. So I actually, when I started like 14 years ago, I didn't feel very brave enough to write a diverse character. So I wrote from that white perspective, and it didn't go very far. I did end up with an agent who also left publishing. And I have so many questions because she was such a nice person, but there were so many weird things happening, and I never asked her what was going on because I just at that point was just trying to get out with some ownership of the stuff I had. And then took a chance on writing a book that with someone who looks like me, who is mixed race. And that's like the book that's out now. So it worked out better, but also in the indie space, just I'm at a small pub too. And it gave me a lot of freedom. It also showed me some things that I could do kind of on my own, and then where I want to go in the future as far as tapping into any traditional publishing spaces. But the agent thing left really a sour taste in my mouth, and I kind of never recovered. That was a while ago too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were both of your like first steps to be like, okay, well, I'm going to try out self-publishing or doing this on my own with an indie? Like, what was the first thing? Were you just like Googling, like, how do you do this? Or like,
well, on my end, again, it was a very weird roundabout kind of situation. So my publisher is Whimsical Publishing. She's a small indie press in Canada. And because of the book boxes that I was doing makeup looks for, she was following me. And I had, I think, put something on my Instagram stories about, kind of the agent falling through, without necessarily telling me. I'm like, well, all right, here's try number 2, like trying to figure out, do I find another agent? Do I want to be traditionally published? Like looking into companies that take unsolicited manuscripts. But I was lucky enough that my publisher, Micheline, followed me, and she messaged me. She's like, hey, I'm just starting out my my business. I've self-published my own books. I'm looking to start self-publishing other people's. And she's like, I would love for you to submit your book to me. And it was just a really crazy blessing, that she chose my book to be the first. And just, I think I learned currently today, I think she just signed on, and I think a fourth or fifth person now. So it's kind of crazy the way those things go. But for me, a lot of my journey is connected to social media, Instagram specifically.
That is super cool. I connected with my small pup through Twitter.
Oh,
yeah. So like, they do so many of those Twitter contests, and hearted a thing, and I submitted a thing. And it actually was for a different book that is like now not currently with them anymore. That got me that step in, and that's something else. But yeah, it worked out. But Twitter, yeah, I don't even really like Twitter.
I don't either, but I know those little kind of pit things.
Yeah.
I found out about those, and that is what made me want to write A Daughter of the Trolls and do it in a very short amount of time to get into those, to try and find myself an agent. That was the only route that I kind of was aware of at that time, knowing, you can cold email. I was just like, oh, this is probably my best opportunity, was to try and write a book in a very small, short amount of time to have it ready for those Twitter things. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know that Maggie said yesterday that she doesn't like Twitter. and I agree. I don't either, but
I'm afraid to try Threads for the same reason. Like it's Instagram's version of Twitter.
Yeah.
Makes me anxious.
I jumped on there, but I almost don't post anything because I can't repost anything. The reposting feature really saves me a lot of time. I'm pretty exhausted with all the social medias. Like, how are we supposed to be on that many? That's a lot.
Right. It is. It really is.
Yeah, I feel like that can be definitely part of, like, more than a full-time job, is being on all of them, and between the content, between responding to people, between
keeping up on trends.
Yeah, and keeping up on trends. Like, how do both of you balance your time between not getting lost in all the craziness? And
do you want to start, Robin?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I do really pretty actively post on TikTok, but one of the beauties of, I think one of the reasons I gravitate toward that platform so much is because I don't have to be anything other than what I look like in the moment, and people like that. They just do. And so I felt the most comfortable. I don't think I can produce like that really curated look that like people who do Instagram really well do. Like, that's just not me, but it's so much easier for me to just get on and talk. And so it's not that hard for me to come up with content on that space, because I'm just I'm doing writer stuff every day, or I'm reading something every day. And so I just kind of do a little update. And then like the trends, this is like such a cheat, but like my husband and my sister will send me like sounds. They'll be like, look at this hilarious sound. And then I'll save it, and I will think of something to use with that sound. So they kind of keep me current in case I don't have time to scroll. So, and then every time I'm scrolling, I'm always thinking of, is this something I could use? Let me go ahead and save it. So, and then I use like this like service called Repurpose, and it kind of just sends my content automatically everywhere. Ooh. Because I don't have, like, I was burnt out last fall because I was trying to put out a book and edit another book and write new things and do the social media at the level of all of the platforms. I couldn't. And so I grabbed that service, sent it out, and now I'm just making myself aware of when people comment on those platforms and reaching people in that way, because I still want to connect with them. I just can't do the content creation for everyone.
Mm-hmm. I just Googled that and saved that link for myself.
Yeah. I mean, I pay for that service, but I think of it in terms of how much is my time worth?
Exactly.
Because I'm exhausted. How much is my time worth? It's worth that. Like that, I would probably pay double for that, like just to have that time.
Yeah. I think there's, I don't know if it's free anymore. I haven't looked into it in a while, but there's an app called If then that, and it's kind of that same thing, is that you attach your social medias and it should share them. I will admit that I'm not the best person when it comes to trends and different social media. Like Instagram for me, honestly, is my sole platform. And most of that, like, it's not unwillingness. A lot of it has to do with being chronically ill and where I have to devote my time. There's a whole thing called the spoon theory that I'm sure a lot of people will know about. Yeah. So for me to be able to like take care of myself as a human being as my condition progresses, like I right now haven't been able to be on social media because of my stroke episodes, and the screens to me are really hard since then. So like I haven't been able to market my new book coming out. So like this is like the first time I've looked at a screen in an extended amount of time. I've got medication off to the side. And like I'm, after this, it's going to be dark rooms and everything. So because of that, I'm mainly just doing my Instagram posts. Like I even like reels for me is super hard, and not doing TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So for me, kind of keeping up on trends, honestly, my sole connection for that is book boxes, like specifically OwlCrate. Like that's what kind of keeps me on, trend of what people want to read, what stories are doing well right now, what kind of new things are coming in the, I guess, the writing community, like the kind of concept of new adult and kind of all that. So I might be a little bit out of touch than most people, but
I mean, and you can only do what you can do and what is working for you. So we have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. Faith Lynn asked, what's something you wish you knew before getting into publishing?
That's a great question. Robin, I'll let you go first.
I don't know. I think one of the things I wish I knew was that I think I had this idea in my head of what I wanted and how success was going to look. And so I spent 14 years not telling anyone I was writing, right? Like I didn't tell anyone I had a deal until I had a deal, because imposter syndrome. I didn't feel good enough to write until I had that, what is it, clout, I guess maybe. But also, like, I think that I should have been more willing to say yes. And so then when 2022 hit, or 2021, end of 2021, I was like, I'm just going to start saying yes to like everything that comes across my path as if it were meant for me. And that's kind of part of how I found OwlCrate too, because I had an ask in a TikTok video where I was like, could you feature me? Like I just was like, I'm gonna ask for the things, and I'm gonna say yes to the things, and I'm just going to take whatever deal I have and act like I am like it is the biggest deal, because that was that moment I was waiting for, and nobody was going to be mean to me about it. Like no one had ever before. Why did I think that they were going to treat me like I wasn't good enough in that space? It was just a fear that had been created in my head. And so just saying yes to that small pub, I allowed myself to be bigger and to do things at a grander scale than in the way that I just didn't for so long. Like what was I waiting for?
Yeah. Forgive me. The question was what we wish we would have known?
Yes.
Okay. Reboot. I think for me, it's probably how slow the industry is, for how, it can be competitive in some areas, but the process is so long. For each person, it's very different, and there is probably some pressure, the more you get into the industry, to put out more things, to do it faster. But in reality, it takes a while to write a book. And then once you start working with editors and content and development editing and copy lines, like it's all a very, very long, slow process. And it's can be really hard and really frustrating, but it's also super, super rewarding. And like seeing a book actually come out into the world and like having people read it and like you get to finally hear what people think after having to read this book yourself 15 times and you absolutely almost hate your own book, but you can't wait because it's like a child. It's like, here, hold it, you know? But after that, like the really interesting thing is I wouldn't say pressure, but what it's like to have your first book out for the very first time after your debut novel, right? Is now that people know about you, now there's kind of a little bit of an expectation of what is going to come and to kind of top that a little bit to continue to grow as an author. And that's kind of what people think. It's like when you write your very first book, no one's really waiting for it, right? And then so once people finally read it, there's going to be a little bit of this anticipation. And then that's when, that kind of imposter syndrome will hit you until you have to, figure out a way to get around that. So I think it's just kind of, it's a really strange world to be a part of when you're not expecting a lot of it. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. And there's also no guidelines of like, here's exactly what you need to do. So.
Well, that was one of the questions that Book Dragon Mama of 3 asked was, what was your reaction to seeing your book published for the first time?
Very crazy. It's weird. But like the first time that you actually get to physically hold it is so strange. And then like the first time you get like a review on Goodreads or, when the arcs go out and like people start reading those, you'll get messages. Like it's just such a crazy, after holding in all of these secrets for so long to finally be able to talk about it. And, art is always the best things, like to finally see the book cover for the first time. Like every little step of having your book published, there is something new every single time. So it's not just one huge gratifying moment. It's all these little bits and pieces that amount to one thing. And it's a very crazy, relieving type of feeling.
What about you, Robin?
I did not cry the first time I held my book. And I was asking some of my debut friends, I was like, is there something wrong with me? I did not cry. Like I had the video ready to do like your unboxing of the first time you see it. And I kind of did an evil laugh. Like, like I'm going to take over the world.
That's amazing.
And did not cry. And I was like, and my husband had asked me in the video too. He was like, are you going to cry? And I was like, no, probably not. Like it was the same joyous feeling, not the exact same joyous feeling, but very similar, a very high and joyous feeling like I felt when he proposed to me. And I didn't cry. I evil laughed. This is very manical, like crazed happiness. It was like a very intense kind of happiness, but it didn't like the things that make me cry are like, you're never gonna like, I never know what's going to make me cry, but it's almost never what I think. But no, just like this, I guess, happy. It was just really joyous. That's the word for it. And I actually don't remember the first review that I got, but I'm very close to my ARC and Street team.
Mm-hmm.
So there were messages. What was surprising about the messages is that sometimes it was like, sometimes during the pre-order season, someone from a giveaway would message me that they'd read the book. And that was so sweet. And I actually have like a little collection of screenshots that kind of reminds me that I don't suck. because I don't look at the reviews anymore. I'm afraid. But here are these special people who thought to reach out to me. And I loved it. Like the fact that they took the time to do that was really, I hold it very close to me.
Yeah, there was I don't remember what author it was I talked to, but they said that they like to keep a little file on their phone of good reviews or good screenshots of good emails from their publisher or whatever to like remind themselves that they are great, even in those moments of self-doubt and everything. McKenzie, we also have a lot of viewers who are saying thank you, of course, for spending time with us and being on a screen for us. And we so appreciate it.
Hey, it was a good thing. Like for me, I was just like, this is so exciting, and I'm like, I don't care how bad it's going to hurt. I'm like, this is just such a crazy opportunity. And like OwlCrate was the first book box that I ever subscribed to in like 2015 or something like that. So dream come true.
Amazing. There's also a lot of people who have been noticing the same thing we did before we went live, of how gorgeous your hair is. So I think that you should also tell the viewers a little bit about that, just like you did with us.
It's tinsel. So I live in Phoenix, so there's a company here called Braid Babes. I know they started off in New York, so they have one there, and I think another state. But these girls, they come to your house and they'll do like tinsel, or they'll do like these crazy braids and like for events and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like my way of having fairy hair, because like for me as a disabled person, one of the only things I can control when it comes to my body is like my hair or getting tattoos. So for me to have like sparkle in it is just it feels new and exciting. So thank you.
I will be seeing if anyone in Minnesota does this, Maggie, and we can get it done together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ask your hairstylists. If you get your hair colored, ask them. There's a lot of girls in salons who do them.
That's a good call. I used to work as a receptionist at a salon, so I know a whole lot of them. So I'm definitely going to do that. Not to interrupt the conversation, but really quick for our viewers, throughout all our panels, we've had a bunch of awesome giveaways, and this panel is no different. We have a bunch of great things to give away. One of the most exciting things, I think, OwlCrate has given 2 copies of their Strange the Dreamer duology. So 2 people will win sets of that. So be sure to put it in the comments if that's something you're interested in, so I can watch. We have a couple ARCs to give away and a couple finished copies of books to give away. So in total, I think we'll have 6 people from this feed that'll be winning things. So I'll announce what those books are a little later, but just so everyone knows, look out for the winners.
Well, and then I keep looking, Robin, at your shelf where you have Raven Boys.
I'm a big Maggie fan. I just think she's so great.
Well, am I going to regret saying this? Maybe, because I still need to buy it. But if you haven't checked out the OwlCrate-A-Thon, I keep saying OwlCrate-A-Thon, OwlCrate-A-Con marketplace, where it's 25% off a bunch of previous boxes, including the Raven Boys anniversary box, which is filled with some gorgeous stuff. So check it out.
I can attest to
that. So we do also have a lot of questions about kind of the differences and advantages and disadvantages between like traditional publishing and indie publishing. Would either of you feel comfortable taking that on and telling us a little bit more?
Sure. I don't have too much experience, literally none, in the traditional publishing sense. If an opportunity were to come my way someday, that'd be great. But the one thing that I do really like about going the indie route is that I think you have a little bit of more choices, and it's not, don't get me wrong, it's hard, but it's not as crazy as having to go through all the steps of getting, the agent and then them having to, kind of solicit your manuscript. It's a lot of a shorter thing because you are your own agent. Mm-hmm. And, through that you kind of get to make your own choices, but also you get to create closer relationships, like my publisher, like she's my book mom, and you get to work so closely with them and, develop these relationships. And, you really get to have a lot of, I don't like the word control, but creative control. You get a lot more say. You get to talk exactly about the kind of art that you want. And like, there's just, from what I've experienced, there's a lot of communication and a lot of love that goes into those, because they really, they're working with you so closely and end up loving you and your project so much. So it's just a really good personal experience.
I agree. I think there is a lot more control and say, like I designed my book cover. I was worried that the person might not look Filipino enough or mixed enough to really represent. And so I pitched it. That's like something that would not really happen in a traditional space, is that you don't have any of that kind of say. They might give you 2, like from what I've seen from my friends, give you like 2 options that are are cool. And they're like, which one do you like? But they were not going to like take your say or even let you do it. Like, that's like really very out of the realm. I can only, as far as the traditional stuff, speak to like, well, I'm in these groups and I have these friends and we kind of just compare notes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things that I can tell you that's pretty similar is that there's a lot put on the author to do marketing, way more than people expect. Like, there are lots of people who get very big deals who go, well, I have a marketing team. And then the sales numbers come out and they go, I thought I had a marketing team. A lot of publishers are actually really depending on you to sell that book. And so if you're kind of in one of our spaces, in those indie publishers, you tend to get a little higher royalty. And so there's a lot more incentive to go sell your book,
Right.
Because you know that you're going to like make a little bit more. But on the back end, like the people who are in traditional spaces, well, they've got their advance and they got paid. And it doesn't add up to a lot when they think of it in the grand scheme of years, but they did already get paid. So there's a little bit less pressure, I think. I don't want to say that specifically because my friends feel a lot of pressure, the ones that are in those spaces. I think it's just interesting to see that no matter where you are the person selling your book. You're the one doing the marketing and you have to make that platform. And I think I see that in a lot of spaces, even outside of publishing, where every job now basically comes with being a content creator. And the pressure to do that is super real.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have some different questions about however much you feel comfortable answering, that going the indie route you can make less money, and questions about like, did it cost stuff for you up front to get going with your business, and like how long did it take for you to start earning income?
That's a really good question. I've had a friend, I ended up co-writing a book with him that was kind of in a deal with an indie publisher. So there's some companies out there that kind of pitch themselves as publishers like that, but they're asking you to front so much money. That's not normal. Usually, like if you are going to spend any money, like that's because you yourself decided to maybe hire an editor before you pitched to agents, because you wanted to get it as best as possible. So technically you shouldn't really be spending anything, unless you're getting like a subscription for Scrivener, because that's where you want to write your stuff. It would all be kind of just things for yourself, not actually to get the book published. What was another question?
Income, like how long it took to start earning income.
Yeah. I know a lot of it can kind of be two different things. I know with my publisher, with The Daughter of the Trolls, that being my first book, I did get an advance, but with the second book, the sequel that's coming out in November, A Goblin of the Glade, I decided not to take that advance, for essentially selling your manuscript to them, and put that right into everything that would go to develop the book, so that technically we would then make royalties faster, not having to pay back that kind of money, and I know anywhere, depending on countries, you could be getting $800 to $1,000 or what have you, depending on how big the company is if you're going indie, at least from my experience.
There's a viewer question that I think is relevant to some of the conversation that I just want to throw in here. Britt Reading asked, how can we as the bookish community help you carry the weight of this social media work, if that's possible?
Wow. I don't. Whew. So as kind of I mentioned, I've had 3 of these stroke episodes. Like my head didn't do this before the 27th of June. And so because of this, I haven't been able to be on social media. I can't write. Like I have medication over here off to the side. Like if I start to have symptoms from it, if this gets worse, like I have to inject myself and hope that I don't have one of those. So because of that, I haven't been able to market A Goblin of the Glade. So it's literally just been up to my publisher and like her saying like, you know, please help us spread the word, as, you know, I can't really help doing that. So I know like my case is very, very strange, but even like when A Daughter of the Trolls, you know, a year ago, like I wasn't in this type of position, but it's having people share your book, the pre-order link, and, you know, talking about it on social media, sharing it to their friends and family. You know, if you have read the book, leaving a review on Goodreads and Amazon. So honestly, it's just even little things like that, because that one Instagram story that you might share, 1, 2, maybe even 3 of your friends could be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what that's about. So it's just like little tiny things like that could set off just such a big chain reaction. But what do you think, Robin?
I think so too. I think that it really doesn't matter what size anyone's following is. Just talking about the book is amazing for all of us. Like that's time that we didn't have to take to make something, and commenting on our stuff is like time that it helps boost it to whatever algorithm you're on. And I will say something that I know from TikTok, because I created like a book talk filter that's actually very popular. It's called what book might fix my life right now, something like that. And it's got over 16,000 people have used it. It's got millions and millions of views. And I even got a little badge for it because it had done so well. And I will tell you that some of the books that went viral from those videos were from creators who had like 200 people following them. And they were like, I had no clue. Or even people who weren't really in the bookish community. Like someone did one and called me their favorite author. They're just like a friend, and they weren't really even bookish. And then it sucked them in because they got almost 1 million views on that one video. And it just, you don't have to be some super star to help someone out, because you just don't know what people are going to love and gravitate toward. Right. And so like even liking a post is like just significant to all of us. We feel it.
That's awesome. Yes. We have lots of people in the comments who actually, where was it? Someone said, nest, assemble, share the book, and pre-order. That was Whisper 12, who I think, yes, put out the call. So we love it. I'll also throw in Mythic Whisper 12. You're one of the winners of our Strange the Dreamer set. So congratulations. You get one of those sets. And then Starcatcher 50, you also get a Strange the Dreamer duology set. So we will, after OwlCrate-A-Con is all done and everything, is when we'll reach out to you regarding getting your information so we can send those to you. But as for the books we have to give away, we have a couple ARCs, Flower and Thorn and The Forest Grim. So we'll be giving those away. And then the 2 final copies, I want to know in the comments who doesn't already own these books, because I don't want to send them to someone who's already got it. One of them was sent by the publisher of one of our panelists yesterday, Gina Chen. So a copy of her book, Violet Made of Thorns. We've got a hardcover of that. And then another author we chatted with in the Nest a little bit ago, Lauren Thoman, I'll Stop the World, a hardcover copy of her book as well. So be sure to let me know if you don't own those books, because I'll be looking.
On that note, before we jump off of that topic we were on, McKenzie, I'd love to throw you into one of my book talk filters. I just made a new one, and I can do one update every 6 months, and it just launched. So I could throw you in there. It's not like it's the new one, but I mean, it could take off. Like we never know. And that could just be a way to help spread news about your book that you just at this moment are not able to do.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. We'll like connect after this.
So we can help connect you if needed. Okay, so Crab0609 would like to know any tips on pitching your book to a publisher.
That's a good one. Robin, do you want to start off?
Ooh. You know what a lot of people say, and I've never really thought of this until my most recent book, but they always say that before you write your book, you should write the query, because it helps focus your book. And so I think that that's such a great idea, because when you're writing that query, it's so hard to take that 90,000 words or whatever, depending on what genre you're writing, and condense it down. So I think it's kind of really helpful to work backwards sometimes. But if you're already past that part, have a lot of eyes on that query. Because even if it's not someone who's bookish, they might have questions that you think you're answering, and you might not be answering. Like, these characters so well, you might be forgetting to say who they are, or their I want song, because those answers. And so just having a lot of eyes look at it and go, what does that mean? Or I don't understand what they want, has been the most helpful for me. I can't do anything in a vacuum. Is that the saying? Because I get tired of looking at my own stuff. And I'm a chronic overthinker. So having other people, just like go, it's like this. Oh, okay. It's easier.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of that. Like, one of the worst things is when you're, putting together all of your query type stuff is not only like the email, but then it's like, try to sum up the entire book, everything that happens, all spoilers in 2 pages, just like,
that synopsis is the worst.
Right. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, what you said, honestly, is perfect. I think working that way, and also like hypothetically pretending if you were doing one of those Twitter pitches, because you only get like 50 characters or 100 characters or whatever it is. So can you sum that up? Can you create one hook in one sentence? And then from there doing that. And I think it also will probably depend on what kind of writer you are. If you're a planner or a pantser, I'm like literally plan things to death. I'm an obsessive list maker. But yeah, having other people, especially other people who have not read the book, do that, read it. And then also to have someone who has read the book read it, because then they'd be like, oh, well, that is missing. And that's really important to, part of the,
yeah.
What I'm talking about. I agree. Long story short, I agree.
Well, and another question we have from Pippin, whether it's where you are right now, Mackenzie, in your process, or about to be, but like, does publishing get any easier after your debut?
Yes. I would say yes, because after your debut, like at that point, you've worked with the editor, you've done your copy line, and like through that, I learned something new with my publisher every single time I write a book. And with those new things that I've learned, I now have my that voice in the back of my head saying those things as I'm writing a new book. So I wouldn't say it gets easier, because that would be a lie, but you are so much more informed, and you will always continuously be growing throughout your entire career as an author. And that experience and the new learning things that you get to apply, will kind of help you as you continue to move throughout that. So yeah, in a way it does. There's always learning and growing to be done. I mean, I'm even at this point, outside of the New Ena Parable series that I'm doing with my publisher, I am starting a small print company, and I'm self-publishing 2 books next year and all that kind of stuff. So it's a big learning experience.
What about you, Robin, now that your debut is out?
I was like, I don't really remember the question, or if it was for me. So I'm just going to sit back. Yeah. In some ways, I feel like it's harder. There's a different kind of pressure with this second book that I have coming out. It wasn't I wrote it like a decade ago. Okay. And the pressure comes from, I wrote this for a friend who I just really loved before she got sick, before she passed away. And so it was for her, because she had had so many terrible things happen to her. And I just felt like she deserved something. And now that she's passed away, I look at it with this, all of this knowledge that I have, just like Mackenzie had talked about, like all the things that you hear now that you've been edited and you're better, and that voice that pushes you. And I look at it with that, and I look at it with the knowledge that she was in my world before, and now isn't. And I'm almost paralyzed by every single line of, is this good enough? Is this going to honor her in that way? Is this what she would think or like? I can't ask her anymore. And so there's this whole other pressure with this book to get it right. And the thing about that is that she was the kindest person. She would not, there's not like, I don't think one thing that she would hate or reject, but I still feel it. And so this second book has been really hard on me just for that reason. I know a lot of people talk about their sophomore book and how that's so much harder to write. I don't know if that's also one of the reasons. I don't know.
I'm kind of in a similar boat, but with the third and final book of the Mina Parables. You know, I've had to take a break because of my current condition, but also, you know, it's neurodegenerative, you know, so I have my illness and I have noticed that change in my brain. And so the way I process things and think is, you know, decreasing a little bit. So I feel that pressure with my third book because I'm so proud of my second book. Like, I was at the top of my craft at that point. And as I continue to get sicker, you know, things get harder and I think differently. So it's like that really pressure of, you know, giving that book justice, knowing that things are different and still, you know, trying to, because like there's going to be people who don't know your story, who don't know, you know, who you are as a person, who has just read your book. You know, they don't know you from social media. They don't really care about you kind of in that parasocial way. And there's going to be that fear of like, oh, they're going to be like, that was a horrible way to end a series, or the third book was so much worse. Like, you hear those with movies all the time. And that, as an author, is one of the scariest things, is like to do a series and then, you know, all of those thoughts and opinions, whether they're your own or other people's, of, oh, the sequel is worse or the sequel is better, or, you know, I get it. It's scary.
Yeah. I cannot say what the Caesar name is totally. It starts with Hulda. Asked, are there ever times when you find reviews such as Goodreads helpful to you as authors, even if they have a dash of criticism? If yes, why or how?
Yeah. So kind of the interesting thing when you are doing own voices stories or stories with very diverse characters is you're going to get a lot of people reading it who have their own experiences. So to relate it like to a specific event. So A Daughter of the Trolls is an own voices story. You know, Sparrow, my character, has the same illness. You know, she's in a wheelchair, the same mental health issues. And I chose to use the term wheelchair bound in my book instead of wheelchair user. And so that concept always brings up a lot of interesting conversations, some negative and some, you know, criticism and conversation, you know, and it's really important and interesting too, to read those and to learn and engage and kind of all that stuff. So reviews are so hard because, you know, you're either going to get this really great knowledge and kind of learn and improve in your next book from what people are saying, or you're going to get your feelings really hurt. Because I know that there's some people who don't like to read the reviews because of that. So that can always be a toss-up for sure. But I think that in life, there's always something to learn and to grow upon.
I'm one of those people who does not read reviews. Like, I have one of those widgets on my website that'll just show me the 5s if I need a boost. But it comes from kind of just knowing my own mental health sake, that I probably wouldn't be able to handle the uglier side that I've seen some of my friends get. I don't think that I just would be able to handle it. And if it bummed me out, I probably wouldn't be productive that day. And I have so many things I'm trying to accomplish. So for the sake of me getting stuff done, I don't. But I will tell you what I do love. As I said earlier, I was really close to my Arc and Street team. And so when they gave me feedback, I listened and loved. I actually really love to be edited. I want that final product to be like the best version it can be. And so if I've got a beta reader or an ARC reader who is saying something, I'm listening, and I'm really very inclined to change things because because I just want to put out like that best version. I want to elevate myself all the time. So I love the criticism in those safe spaces where, like, you know, I've invited people in and I'm like, we don't know each other, but let's get to know each other. Mm-hmm. And actually I'm about to start beta readers on a new book very soon, like within the month. I'm going to be like putting a little call out and asking for people to be like very critical of me. I love it in those spaces. Mm-hmm. But I won't read the reviews for the sake of this is like the final product and there's nothing I can do to change it.
Right.
So I would rather hear the criticism way beforehand and go, yeah, I can fix that. Yeah. I will make this better. Okay. It's just the most productive way that I can function, because otherwise my heart, I will be sad.
I feel like I'm probably too much of a masochist where I probably wouldn't be able to help myself from going and checking out reviews, which I'm sure I would learn that lesson very quickly. Well, so I know, Robin, you mentioned some different writer friends or writer groups that you were in. How have you both connected with other writers and kind of made those?
Yeah. Okay. So
relationships.
One of the things I didn't know you were supposed to do right away when you got your deal is go find your debut group and join it. And so whatever year you're in, I'm in 2023. I went and looked for the 2023 debuts, and we're all in this great big Slack, and we're all talking about which publishers we're at and what things are happening and what timelines things are happening, because everything happens a little differently, but we kind of just want to know, like, are we being treated right? Are we doing this right? Oh, are you on TikTok? How is that going? Should I be joining this other new platform? It's fantastic. And it's the most writing community I've been in, because we're all just kind of terrified and hoping to succeed together. And then, like, in that group, I somehow got very fortunate to be part of a smaller debut group, and we like market together, and it's great. And it's called the Class 2K, and like all our books are on a website, and we just kind of pump each other up. We're all from different publishers. And then I'm also part of a UK debut group, and like, I cannot even tell you how I got in that group, but I feel very fortunate because they're all lovely. But I don't remember how I got in that group. For a while there, it was just me and another friend who were just like the only Americans. Like, okay, I had some sales over there. It was great.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm sitting over here like, oh, what have I done? Social media. I mean, quite honestly, you know, it's like being a part of an indie publishing group. You know, every time my publisher would sign someone on, it's like, welcome to the family, you know, and you're kind of learning about each other. And each of us in Whimsical published a very different genre of young adult books. So that was kind of fun to meet new people that way. Kind of another weird roundabout way is through book boxes, and like I've been hired before by some different publishing companies, like Inkyard Press, to do body paint looks like for their authors. And through that, because I've done like that specific author's debut books for like 3 years in a row, like you get to talking to that author. So it's honestly, it's interaction and kind of seeking each other out in whatever way, shape, or form. But I think social media is going to it's always your friend when you're an author. I think for anything, there's always going to be some form of social media content creating or what have you, where you find your community, like this right here, you know? So.
Yeah. And as Carolyn Victoria said in the comments, which I should have mentioned earlier, we do have on the Nest an aspiring authors group. So come join us and chat and ask any questions you have, and we can all work together. I kind of also always forget that we have that group and need to. Meg, I see that you added some more books to our giveaway.
I did. Okay. So there's just so many people in this chat feed that are just so enthusiastic and wonderful. There's been multiple people commenting saying, I just went out and bought your books during this chat. So both of you have gained book purchases from our viewers. So I just it's so great for me to watch. I've actually been really okay to just be here and kind of be quiet.
Yeah. I know the comments are like flying off, and I'm like, I can't keep a handle.
Amazing. So yes, I did add 2 more arcs that got sent from a publisher, and so because I couldn't resist, I added a couple more. So here we go. The 2 arc or one of the arcs is Flower and Thorn. And that is going to a viewer who I think I have seen in every single panel this weekend and has not won anything yet. So Kathy, Palm Katie Books, you win a copy of Flower and Thorn. The Forest Grim is an arc we have, and that is going to Odd Libby 22, also someone I've seen throughout the weekend. The final copy of Violet Made of Thorns, I feel obligated to make sure that I'm not, negatively impacting someone's life. AP Snell 18 said they blacked out as soon as I mentioned giving away a copy of that. So I think I better send you that copy of Violet Made of Thorns. The copy of I'll Stop the World is going to A Court of Songs and Stories. And then the 2 that I decided to add because they're right next to me looking at me is Love Buzz by Neely Tubadi Alexander. And that is going to Reba Reads. And then I have a copy of Graceland by Nancy Crocier. And that is going to Lunder Watson. So congratulations to all of the winners. As I said before, we will be messaging you after all of OwlCrate-A-Con is done.
Yeah, and I did the chats and read the books for Love Buzz and Graceland, and they're both really good.
So I thought so.
Go back and check those out.
Awesome.
All right. Well, for our last couple minutes, let's see, what should we ask you guys? Well, one question that A Longstreet 13 has is, are indie published books sold at larger bookstores like Barnes and Noble?
Sometimes.
Yes, I was like, sometimes, I think.
I know Ingram Spark is kind of the hub for those books to be, bought, whether through Barnes and Noble or your local bookstores. I know in Arizona, I don't think there's any Barnes and Nobles that carry mine. But one of my publishing sisters within Whimsical, she went to her Barnes and Noble and asked hey, do you guys have a local author section? And then they ordered her book from Ingram. But I have gone to a couple of family bookstores before, and I've seen that. I think sometimes you can even contact certain bookstores to ask if they'll carry your books and say hey, here's the thing on Ingram. But yeah, sometimes and sometimes not. I think indie pubs and self-publishing, it's a little harder to get there, but it's the dream.
Yeah, Ingram Spark does. They're the big distributor, and you can be in a lot of those spaces online. So a lot of indies will be on there, Barnes & Noble online and Target online and stuff. I have a relationship with my Barnes & Noble in Corpus. I don't live there anymore, but I did for a long time. I used to write there every day. And I was on the news a lot in that town because the book is set in that town.
Oh, okay. I was why were you on the news?
Yeah. Well, I was on the news because I hit a new release list before the book was even published. And so they were like, that's newsworthy. And they put me on the news, and so I had that relationship with them, which was really cool because I didn't think they remembered me. I was like, I don't know if you'll remember me. And they were like, we do. You're here every day. And I had a really great book signing. It wrapped from one side of the store all the way around the cafe for a solid 2 hours. It was over 2 hours. I didn't stop signing. And then I had a whole nother stack that was just so high of books. And I went yesterday to see if they still had any, because it's been about 2 months since my book was published. And that stack was sold out, and they had ordered some of the hardbacks, which was really cool. But that is the only bookstore that I know of. I don't even know how you would find your book at other places without specifically calling them and going, are you carrying it in store? But I can tell you, if you're looking for where they are in libraries, you can just go on WorldCat and look it up. I wish there was a system like that. But WorldCat, look it up. And like my book is in like Singapore. Why, I don't know how it got over there, but I'm glad it is. But yeah, there's like possibilities for indies, and especially if you're like really loud about your book, people will somehow find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And people can request your books at libraries and stuff too.
Yeah. And even at those bookstores, like the more they get requested, if you guys really want them at your locals, they will start stocking them. Which is great.
All right. That's another way we can help all the indie authors out, is requesting that your favorite bookstore carries it. Okay, so here's one more question that I am very intrigued by. So Alana Reeds asked, how important are tropes to your pitches? With social media, I've noticed authors market their books by their tropes, and I was wondering if this carried over to publishing.
Do you want to start, Robin?
I was so confused by tropes.
Yeah.
Like I knew what they were, but when I was like talking about my book, I was like, I know that this is like marketable. I just don't know which of these tropes actually fits without feeling like a liar. Like, I was like, is it kind of found family? Is it kind of this? I don't know. I think that from now on, I will think of books in terms of that. Like the horror that I was writing, I was like, what tropes do I want to hit? Can I do that? And it was a little hard to do that, because I was like, well, now I need to go learn this trope appropriately, or people might not like that I called it enemies to lovers. People have a lot of opinions about what enemies to lovers really is. I'm so scared to use that term. So yeah, I think that when you're looking at publishing in general, when you're looking at queries, they like comps. They do that. Like I always say, mine is like a Filipino Little Mermaid meets the Butterfly Effect. Like they get where it belongs in the market. And so if you're thinking about it in publishing terms, you're wanting to think of comps first. But and tropes is like really a thing that pulls readers in. But it's not to say that you couldn't use a trope to kind of guide how you're going to write that query. Because again, you're selling your stuff.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I knew what tropes were, just through being a reader first and foremost. But like with my first book, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. I like planning the book and everything. Again, I was just making the book. There was no like added thing of like, oh, this would be a great thing to include. Like originally with The Daughter of the Trolls, it wasn't a childhood friends to lovers. Like the main characters were kind of friends distantly, but then through working with my publisher and doing content and development editing, like it worked its way in. So with The Goblin of the Glade kind of being aware of that, I was just like, okay, now I get it, enemies to lovers and yada yada yada. But I think for me, and kind of like my overall mission as an author, is to always have mental health rep, a disability rep, and a chronic illness type rep in all of my books. And so for me, that's the kind of terms that I think of. I think of more of representation as compared to tropes.
Yes. All right. Those both gave me some good ideas. Yeah. For when to talk about tropes, when to talk about representation, when to talk about the comps. Yeah. Well, we need to let you both go, especially because Robin needs some downtime before she is a guest moderator on our next panel. So much. I could have chatted even longer about publishing and with both of you. So thank you.
This was so fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all for watching. We hope you're enjoying OwlCrate-A-Con, and be sure to tune into our next panel, which is Book Talk and Bookstagram Powerhouses with Rachel Sargent, Sunya Mara, Kevin T. Norman, Jason Headley, and our guest moderator, Robin Alvarez. And this panel is going to be happening at 6 p.m. Eastern or 3 p.m. Pacific. So thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.